The other day, a friend of mine asked me a really deep or profound question about democratic schooling. He's a martial arts teacher. He's actually my martial arts teacher. But he wanted to know, okay, what happens in a situation where a student wants to learn something that requires a lot of humility, or rigor, or patience. And in the case of martial arts, often there is kind of a master-student dynamic. And it's like, is that a contradiction to what we do? So we believe in self-directed learning. We believe in the role of a staff member as a facilitator of learning. So it seems to be a contradiction, but I think if you reflect on it, it actually doesn't. And I think everything I'm about to say also applies perfectly well to studying for an exam, studying something like algebra or calculus or computer programming or accounting or anything else like that that requires a lot of following a procedure in order to learn it. Okay, I'd also like to thank the people who discussed this with me and gave me kind of lots to think about on it as well. So there is nothing in a Sudbury school that prevents this kind of top-down learning. The key word is consent. So if the student consents to it, it's okay. So I would say that step one in this process would be to clarify if a student wants to learn a martial art like capoeira or like kung fu or whatever it is, that the first thing would be to distill down what they really want, to discuss it to whatever level they're capable of expressing at their particular age. And then two, assuming that there is a facilitator or a staff member or a volunteer who's available, who is knowledgeable, to sit down and make an agreement. Okay, some rules. Okay, the staff member has needs and the student has needs, and they have to find a way of approaching this in some kind of a structured way. And it would be the role of an adult to maybe do a reality check on some of these things. Okay, so you can make your rules and you can abide by them. And I think they call it in Summerhill the law of 2 feet as well, where if a student wants to pull out of that agreement and they want to not do it anymore, that's okay too. Okay, then you have 2 feet and you have the right to walk away. That is the kind of the answer to that question, I think. But like, I would like to couple that with a story that I have. I'm actually currently a mainstream secondary school teacher. And one of the best parts of my job is I run a computer club. And the computer club used to be a gaming club. So we started off as a computer gaming club. And a few years ago, I had this bright idea. I like coding and things like that. And I thought, okay, let's expand out from being a gaming club and become a computer club and add in things like programming and graphic design. So one of the kids was already into programming. He thought it was great. But the rest of them just had no interest. So after a while, I just kind of gave up. But then if you fast forward 2 years later, someone walks in, a girl who's into animation. She does that on a platform called Scratch, which is kind of programming for kids. She starts doing it obsessively. The others look at her screen and they are fixated. They want to know what this is and they want to learn it. And this is exactly the same platform that I tried to get them into 2 years ago. Now, everyone in the club is programming at the moment. Okay, I'm not saying they'll always do that, but all of them have become brilliant at this in a very short space of time with no real instruction from me. Just by getting into a community of people who are into it, they're sharing skills, they're figuring things out, they're Googling things. And I think the reason I'm telling that story is, we shouldn't always rush to assume that a student needs a lot of instruction. Sometimes if you can wait for the right time or the right situation, things can happen quite easily. So there's nothing wrong with it, kind of a top-down student-master dynamic. But I think maybe we need to have a little bit of patience that if there's a lot of resistance to it, maybe it's not the right time. Okay, so I'd really appreciate any questions like that really help me to think things through and to communicate better about this project. So thanks for listening, and I would really love if everyone would share their thoughts or further questions on Facebook.